Chizom wasted no time. He rode straight to Oka. When Chizom and his men arrived, they charged with all their might. The battle was fierce. Njideka and Prince Chizom had been inseparable since they were children. In a small peaceful village of Obagwe, everyone knew their story. They would run through the fields together, laugh by the riverside, and always had each other's back. The village elders often said that Njideka and Chizom had a bond stronger than any other, even though they were young. No one doubted they would grow up and marry each other. When Njideka finished her secondary school, her father, Chief Pius, sent her abroad to further her education. The news of her departure made Chizom restless. He couldn't bear the thought of being away from her for so long, so he begged his father, King Udoka, to allow him to study at the same university. Seeing how serious his son was, King Udoka agreed. For the next few years, Prince Chizom and Njideka lived abroad, but their hearts never left Obagwe, and their bond grew even stronger. Meanwhile, trouble built back at their homeland. The village of Obagwe had been detached from the neighboring village of Oka, each with its own king and people. But King Udoka of Oka, a greedy and ruthless ruler, had other plans. He had already conquered 2 neighboring villages and now set his sights on the village of Obagwe. King Udoka believed that even though Obagwe had its own king, he was the true ruler of the entire village. He declared himself the King of Kings and sent his warriors to torment Obagwe. They would burn their crops, poison their side of river with harsh chemical, and forcefully take their maidens to become Udoka's wife. Among those unfortunate maidens were Amaka, a woman from Obagwe who had been forcefully taken as Udoka's 47th wife. Though she had born 2 sons, Amaka never gave up hope of one day escaping Oka and returning to her village. One day, tragedy struck Obagwe. King Udoka, Chizom's father, passed away, leaving the throne empty. The chiefs quickly sent word to Prince Chizom, calling him back to take his rightful place as king. Chizom and Njideka rushed back to Obagwe, heart heavy with grief but determined to lead the village through the difficult times ahead. The village elders advised Chizom that before he could officially ascend the throne, he had to marry. It was a tradition in Obagwe that a king must have a queen by his side. Without hesitation, the young prince chose Njideka, the love of his life, as his bride. The entire village was filled with joy and preparation for the wedding and coronation began. However, as the ceremony was underway, disaster struck. King Udoka's large army of warriors stormed into the village, interrupting the marriage. Without warning, they seized Njideka and carried her off to Oka. Prince Chizom, furious and heartbroken, felt betrayed by his own warriors for allowing Udoka's men to catch them off guard. With his heart ablaze with anger, Chizom wasted no time. He rode straight to Oka, marched into Udoka's palace and demanded Njideka's release. Udoka, smug and arrogant, refused. He challenged Chizom to war, boasting that he would marry Njideka on the battlefield after defeating him. The quality of Udoka's word shook Chizom to the core, but he didn't back down. He left the palace with heavy heart, but determined to win. Just as Chizom was about to mount his horse, a figure approached him quietly and slipped a letter into his hand. He didn't have time to read it as at that moment, but he knew it would be important. Back in Obagwe, Chizom called his warriors together. "We must prepare for war," he declared. but the warriors were not eager. They knew that Oka's army was much larger and more powerful than theirs. The bravest among them stepped forward and voiced his concern. "Prince Chizom, we are outnumbered. What chance do we have?" But Chizom, still consumed with rage and love for Njideka, dismissed their fear. "I will not allow Udoka to touch her. We will fight and we will win." The day before the battle, Chizom remembered the letter that had been slipped into his hand. He opened it and saw that it was from Amaka, Udoka's 47th wife, the woman whom he had taken from Obagwe forcefully. She promised to help. She would lace the water supply of Oka's warrior with a sleeping portion on the morning of the war. Chizom's heart lifted. Perhaps they had a chance after all. When the day of the battle arrived, the warriors of Oka, confident in their numbers, arrived on the battlefield hours before the men of Obagwe. They were prepared for an easy victory, but little did they know Amaka had already done her work. When Chizom and his men arrived, they charged with all their might. The battle was fierce, with swords clashing and arrows flying through the air, but soon something strange began to happen. One by one, the warriors of Oka started to collapse, falling to the ground as if they were asleep. From the corner of the battlefield, Amaka appeared, dressed in the armor of a warrior. She ran to Chizom's side, and together they watched as the soldiers of Oka fell into a deep slumber. Basi, a childhood love from Obagwe, who was fighting alongside Chizom, saw her and his heart swelled with hope. With the warriors of Oka now helpless, Chizom and his men quickly tied them up and marched straight into the palace. There they found the King of Kings on his knees begging for mercy. Njideka, locked away in one of the palace rooms, was quickly freed and ran into Chizom's hand. The people of Oka, having seen their mighty army fall, had no choice but to surrender. Chizom, with a heart full of justice, decided not to free his people but to take control of Oka as well. He did not treat its people with cruelty as Udoka had, but instead promised peace between the two villages. Days later, in a grand ceremony, Chizom finally married Njideka, but this time it wasn't just a wedding and a coronation for the village of Obagwe. It was both for the village of Obagwe and the village of Oka. Chizom was now the ruler of two thrones, and peace reigned among the land once again. The bond between him and Njideka, tested by fire and war, was now stronger than ever, and they ruled with wisdom and love. As for Amaka, her bravery had not gone unnoticed. She was reunited with Basi, and the two were finally free to live the life they had always dreamt of in their beloved village of Obagwe. The people celebrated not only their victory, but the power of love, loyalty, and courage. King Udoka's downfall teaches us that greed and arrogance only lead to destruction. By trying to conquer and control others through cruelty, he lost not only his power but also the respect of his people. A leader who rules with selfishness and fear will eventually face defeat, while those who act with fairness and humility will thrive. The story shows us that no matter how long someone thinks they are, unjust actions will only come back to haunt them. Thanks for watching.